There's two types of observation. That's participant observation, when the observer's actively participating whilst they observe, and then non-participant observation is where they don't participate, so they just sort of stand on the side and watch. So observation witnesses players in their natural environment, so they can be part of a study whilst they're playing their own sport, rather than sort of just being asked questions about it. Also, it can be very detailed, dependent on how they observe. Because obviously this is qualitative, so they're going to describe sort of what happens. The disadvantages of this is it sort of tells you what but not why. So it tells you what's going on but not why it happened. So it says how many shots someone made, for example. It doesn't tell you why that happened. So performance is going to vary as well, especially if they're aware that someone's watching. For example, if they're aware that someone watches and they are highly aroused by the fact that this, so if they have a high arousal when they have an audience, then they're going to perform better. But if it, could go either way, so it could go back down to a worse performance. So next one is focus groups, which is sort of just like a group interview. So it leads sort of to it's mainly just a discussion, so it's a type of interview. So within a focus group, there's going to be plenty of different people with loads of different personalities, and therefore plenty of different opinions are going to be brought to the table. However, this could cause an issue because personalities could clash. For example, if there's a naturally louder or more confident person compared with naturally quiet people who would just sort of be content to sit back, they're going to clash, obviously. And also, leading on from this, some people might be afraid to state their opinion and share their views with the group in case they offend other people. So now we're going to move on to quantitative data collection. So this is sort of numerical data, so it can be analysed using statistics, telling you what, where, how often, stuff like that. Variables are manipulated to determine the effect of one thing, so the independent variable on the dependent variable, showing a clear relationship. It's objective facts, so it's no opinions, it's more just sort of solid pieces of correct information with no space for interpretation. So this sort of says what, where, when, but doesn't say why something happens. For example, why a person missed an open goal from 5 yards out. So it doesn't tell you that they were being closed down by, an England standard defender, that sort of thing. And also it doesn't show emotions or motives. For example, someone could have an awful performance, but the quantitative data doesn't tell us that their mental health is deteriorating, or that their cat died, or even that they spilt their cereal. Just stuff like that can have a huge effect on their performance. So quantitative observation, this is done by notational analysis, which is just studying the play. So it can be done using sheets of skills, and then a tally is done when you perform a specific skill. For example, in football you could have skills such as short passes, long passes, headers, tackles, tackles won, tackles lost, shots. You could do how many they attempted and how many they were successful, or you could just video the game and analyse it afterwards rather than trying to do it all at once. So this is important because it shows sort of the strengths and the weaknesses, so it shows what they're good at, what they're not good at, and you can compare this over a period of time, so you could do it and then do it again after 6 weeks and see what they've improved on. It also credits all aspects of the sport, especially in football. People see, this person scored a hat-trick, they get man of the match, they played amazing. But it's not about that. This also helps us to see, how many assists someone got, how many, a defender could have won every single tackle that they went into, but they wouldn't get any recognition. So this will show, how many tackles they won, for example. However, this can be very time consuming, and it can be difficult to do if it's been videoed, especially watching a video and analysing it then. Also, if it's being filmed, then loads of people, if it can't be filmed, then loads of people are going to be required to analyse, because obviously you can't analyse a whole team of 11. If we're using football as an example, you're going to have to get 11 people to help you. Also, the researcher needs to have knowledge of the sport. For example, if a researcher played football and they were told to observe basketball, they were given a sheet of skills that said, layup, steals, offence, basically, they would not know what these keyword sort of mean? So they think, oh, is that a layup? I don't know. Sort of space for interpretation as well. Like they could sort of give them the benefit of doubt and be like, oh yeah, that was an alright layup, something like that. And also there's ethical issues because there's two different types of observation, disclosed and undisclosed. So disclosed is when they aren't aware that they're being observed. So there's issues with this regarding sort of lack of consent, whereas undisclosed is where, the participants are aware that they're being observed. So questionnaires is again a set of questions. With quantitative, it's obviously a lot, with qualitative questionnaires, it's obviously going to be more wordy and expand on this, expand on that, whereas questionnaires for quantitative data is going to be quite specific. So the specificity of questions is going to be quite high because the researcher wants to know exactly what they want to know. Also, it's going to be quick to perform, and there's going to be less bias because the researcher won't be there to potentially sway the person into answering in a certain way. And then again, less pressure they'll feel. Disadvantages, questions might be misunderstood. So if the person answering the questions is sitting there like, I have no idea what that question means, then they're just going to try and answer it anyways, or they'll miss it out. So either way, it's not going to go down well. And dishonesty, like I said before, people are going to want to lie to make themselves look better, which is going to give reliability issues. Finally, so lab-based experiments and field-based experiments. Lab-based is sort of collection of data in a lab, obviously. Within the lab, there's going to be expensive and technical equipment, which is very important because it means that the data is going to be accurate and more reliable because the researcher is clearly trained enough to perform a study in a lab. With all this equipment, it makes it so much easier to control the variables and clearly show an effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. However, this describes what some people may think when they're working, in this case under study. So it is basically evaluation apprehension is just, so if your friend was taking part in the study, they're going to know exactly what you want to find out. So they might change their performance in order to help your study and give the results that you're looking for. But then in a way this is just a lot worse because they're lying, they're not doing what they would usually be doing. And also demand characteristics. So this is again similar when we speak about these. It's just showing characteristics different to the ones you'd usually show when you want to impress the researcher. Field-based experiments, so advantages that you're in your natural environment. So it's a collection of data in a natural environment, like, for example, on a running track, rather than a treadmill. So good things about this is that the researcher witnesses the participant in their natural environment, so they're actually playing the game and doing what they're doing, which then increases ecological validity, making it more real, more, you can apply it to the real world, because in a lab sometimes artificial situations can be created. However, some variables might be uncontrollable. For example, the weather. So the wind could have an effect on how far someone could throw a ball, for example. Also, equipment available might not be as advanced as that of lab-based experiments, so this might make it less credible to other researchers. So if they see it and be like, oh, they just did that on a rainy day on a running track, rather than, oh, they did that in this university lab, for example.